All right, I didn't really want to engage with this subject because I just feel like I'm encouraging them to continue on and to continue doing this. But it's really a lot of assault, a psychological assault that's been occurring lately. A lot of things that are coming from just making me feel like Alex Jones is having an issue with everything that I do. Just a second ago, I was looking at fidget toys because I like to work with those things while I'm thinking about stuff, and just hear him like scoffing through his nostrils. Like that's his distorted view of reality. Is like he's got to just they make me hear it all the time, and it's kind of like if I say something or if I stutter mid sentence or something doesn't come out right, then I hear him scoffing through it, and I feel his energy, like as if he was here, and it feels like the point of it is to let me know or something that, or the what's being conveyed is that Alex Jones, is having an inferiority complex. He can't really acknowledge it to himself. He has a distorted perception of reality. It's extremely, it is extremely offensive, to feel this stuff. And they were making me feel it coming from people that I grew up with in the Carrollton area. Because I did run into a problem with them where they tried to kill me because of some things that they saw about me on the internet. I don't know. It's weird, with some people, it's, I guess, just so much jealousy, So I feel like it's kind of a hidden message about jealousy, but what they're really doing is trying to get, people will like it. It's really confusing. It's kind of like, oh, well, we're doing this to him because of sex trafficking victims and the British royal family, but as well, they're trying to make it palatable by saying he's the conspiracy theorist and, it just feels like this is being permitted. He told you not to eat pizza, but it feels like it's being permitted. Like the government sees Alex Jones, like, yeah, you kind of got to be Alex Jones' slave, like a Roman society where half of the people own slaves. It's like, yeah, you're his slave. You're Alex Jones' slave. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like this little pest. You know what I mean? And it honestly feels like that's exactly what's going on. And I do believe that's probably true to a certain extent. But to the extent that I have to feel it all the time, I feel like the feeling is kind of like, well, yeah, we know you feel it when he's doing that, but you're his slave because that's just the way it works. It's just like, but I know that he's just being permitted to do it because he's a CIA asset. Stratford. If you look into Stratford's relationship with InfoWars and the CIA, but the Fabian communist part where the Acacia Strain put out the song Impaler, which was an admission to being Fabian communists, and it was a direct response to voicemails that I had left on Alex Jones' voicemail. And to be honest with you, even though it was extremely bad, it kind of felt like once I realized what was going on, it kind of felt like, well, that actually kind of makes sense for them to act like that because I was actually having some psychological issues and I wasn't able to stop talking for some reason. I think it was post-traumatic stress disorder, and I think from the Soviet brainwashing facility that I went through, which I didn't comply with and wound up being targeted by black people because they all hate white people. And this is one of the problems I've run into with black people is they tried to destroy my business. The only complaints I've ever received on my business ever was from black people. When I went to work at a restaurant, then the only complaints I ever received ever was from black people. And that's just a consistent pattern. And in fact, they were made up. You know what I mean? It's just, and then to the extreme that like the only black girl at the entire restaurant was one waitress. And it was in a extremely upscale area where black people don't come in very often. But those were always the people who fucked with me. The only black girl at the entire restaurant. The only other one. That was the one. And she went around to every motherfucker in the restaurant and said he did a bad job. He didn't get them their water fast enough. It was on Mother's Day, and we were so fucking overcrowded that people were trying to give me their tables and shit. People who never had any kind of trouble with their tables or anything. Intelligent people who were in college. It just couldn't keep up with what the fuck was going on. You know what I mean? And it was just, and it was, it was just terrible, you know? And it was the Cheesecake Factory, which is extremely fast-paced. So even if you can just keep up, period, actually. But the point of the story is, that's part of the reason why I like that job, is because it was a challenge to keep up with everything. But the point of the story is just that, you know, that went on, and I came out of that with extreme amount of post-traumatic stress disorder. But the thing about it is, and actually I didn't get in trouble at the Cheesecake Factory. I told them my side of the story, and when he came in, he like grabbed a Mexican dude and was like, I want you to be here when I tell him this, just to make it appropriate, and then was just like, yeah, that's bullshit. We're not gonna pay any attention to that, okay? But either way, the point of the story is just to say that when it comes down to you know, what was going on in that specific scenario, it's not exactly black and white, and I'm not making an excuse for Alex Jones. It's just that I don't even remember what my point was, but I think my point was just that it's just weird that it's like they're harping on this Alex Jones shit. You know what I mean? Like, as if that was the worst thing that ever happened to anyone. Now, granted, that was bad, the way that they came against me with the Acacia Strain, but it wasn't like out of the blue. You know what I mean? It was like, by the time they actually got around to acting like that, it was basically like, and even the lyrics of the song is kind of like confronting me for being insane, and it's kind of like, you're just a fucking crazy person. You know what I mean? Like, take a look at yourself. You're actually acting really crazy. And I needed it because it didn't even make sense the way I was acting. There was bad things that happened. I'm sure I was scared on some level. Wasn't consciously aware of it. It could have been a lot of different things. It could have been them trying to work an angle on me. But at that point, I'm not fully convinced of that. Actually, I don't even think that's what went on. I do think that they were probably working multiple angles on me. You know what I mean? But it's too confusing to say one way or the other. But the aliens have kind of like taken a hard line on this, and are like, yeah, it was like that. You know what I mean? It's like, you were a victim, and Alex Jones was bad. He was out of line. Women were stalked. Women were threatened in music, just brazenly. You know what I mean? Which it's bad. You know what I mean? And the way the public's going to see it is always going to be like, Alex Jones is the enemy, and he was being threatened by you, you continually perceiving that he's on your devices, and you continually perceiving his jealousy and his animosity and his, subdued or like subconscious jealousy that he's not even aware of. And it's like just the frustration of that. Just like, you couldn't even see what the fuck was going on with you, you fucking pest. You know what I mean? Because I already hate him enough, I already hate him a lot. But the way that but I've dealt with that emotion, but the way that they make me feel about it every fucking day would just blow your fucking mind. You know what I mean? And I honestly believe that the point of that I feel like they're trying to make a message about jealousy, but I feel like the bigger message is, divine retribution. It's really about assaulting me to get you to like the new Constitution. That's the point of what I'm trying to say. This new decentralization provision is probably the most important provision in the entire document. And so it's been they kind of slacked off on beating me up until something extremely complex came up, and then it would get so severe that I couldn't even deal with it. And then I was all the way to the point of suicide almost before they would even back off. And then they wouldn't get that severe with me until another extremely complex provision came up. Well, this one's both complex and vital. I mean, getting people to buy into it is extremely important. And it pisses me off because they've been assaulting me for 2 fucking years now. Like all the way back to California when I started working on this document. Basically, as soon as I got to a point with the document where I was like, well, I quit putting new stuff into it because I was like, this is done, you know? I don't think I can even think of anything else. Well, I did end up thinking of other things, but only when I came back to it and I started working on it with artificial intelligence and actually fleshing it out and creating an actual document. But, you know, like this is like, you can hand it to somebody, be like, this is the new Constitution, and read it and be like, wow, that's amazing. It's all written in constitutional language. It's all got sections and provisions and everything. And it's got an index. It's really done well. But beside the point, what I'm saying is just that, you know, once I got to a stopping point, then everything started ramping up. And I finally realized, you know, they're doing this to get people galvanized around the new Constitution. They've shrouded their reasons and other reasons, but ultimately you can see that that's what they're doing. I don't buy into it as much that they're doing this to get us to say we want to do nuclear weapons on California, even though that is possible. But I just don't think maybe that's part of it. But the bigger reason to me is the galvanization. And that's just the way they operate. You know, they did this in Egypt before they put forward all those commands and rules of Leviticus, from Leviticus all the way to, you know, from Exodus to Leviticus. So many rules, so fucking many, you know what I mean? So many crazy little rules. And so you see why they had to do, you know, bombarding the city, you know, this is the bad person right here, but don't even attack him, but kill everybody around him, and then be like, you know, just to drive him insane, you know, just the most twisted shit, you know what I mean? And that's what they're doing. Like my usefulness as Christ has not been exhausted yet. I mean, at first it was, you know, to beat me until people don't want to do marriage. Now it's to beat me until they like the new Constitution. And it's just, it's actually pretty severe, you know? And one of the things that they do that bothers me so much is they'll say, it'll be like, I'll recognize that something's important. Like, oh shit, this is important because of a certain aspect of it. You know what I mean? And then I'll be like, and then my mind will respond with urgency and it'll start ramping up gamma waves. So then my faculties will be at a much higher level. You know what I mean? And I can think more clearly. I can resolve things fast. I can come up with good solutions that I know are good. You know? And I know how gamma waves work because I've strapped an EEG to my head, a portable EEG, and watched a readout of my brain waves in live time on a screen. And I was actually just staring into outer space. I wasn't really even paying attention to it. And then suddenly I started to feel those kind of like, you might call it like a positive feeling, it feels good. You know what I mean? Like when the gamma waves start picking up, feels like you're putting something together, or your mind's engaging with a mystery. You know what I mean? It's like, this is interesting. You know what I mean? But you're building something inside. Sometimes it's not really associated with any kind of constructive thing, but that's usually what it is. It's a constructive thought. You're building something. And those gamma waves will not just spike voluntarily. You know what I mean? You don't just get to say, this is a big problem I need to work on. Give me some gamma waves. No, that does not work. You know what I mean? Your mind has to, I think urgency probably contributes to it. It's like the sense of urgency, your nervous system responding to that feeling of urgency, that fear. You know what I mean? The fear creates a sense of urgency that triggers the gamma waves. Gamma waves are extremely high frequency wavelengths. Much higher frequency than the other wavelengths. I think it's your brain personally basically gearing up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take energy. Like, you know how you're really tired when you've been thinking about a lot of stuff? It's like I'm going to take your I'm going to take all your mental focus. You'll burn a lot of calories when you're thinking a lot of stuff. Like I'm going to burn calories. I'm going to exert extra energy. You know what I mean? To focus on this problem. And you cannot just voluntarily turn those on. Some people can, but they're usually people. But those people are highly practiced meditators, people with thousands of hours of meditation. You know, and I don't even know what they're thinking about when they turn their gamma waves on like that, or if they just turn them on, and they just start realizing all kinds of stuff. I have no idea. But the average person cannot just do that, okay? And I'm not just going to be able to do that. So either way, it really bothers me a lot because because the average person will hear this and say, oh, he was interrupted before he was allowed to think through a problem. And then they'll be like, well, it didn't really hurt him that much. It didn't really hurt the solution that much. It'll be okay. You know what I mean? But they don't actually understand how the brain works, and I do. That's why I'm not trying to scare you, okay? But what they're doing is basically saying that, you know, you created a system that's absolutely foolproof, almost, you know, absolutely, pretty much, foolproof, and then now we're just going to burn part of it and make you watch. Because when people hear about that, they'll adhere to that system just from knowing that you were put through something else. And then there'll be more benefit in that than there would even be in letting you think through that effectively. You know what I mean? And it does bother me. And, you know, it really bothers me a lot because, see, I'm feeling it. I'm working inside of the machinery. And I'm watching all the computers go down, and I'm watching all the, you know what I mean? I'm watching things go dead, and I'm watching things fail. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching, like, if my brain was a control room and I was standing inside of it, I'm watching all the computers crash. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to boot them back up, and they won't. You know what I mean? Like, I know what a gamma wave feels like. I know what I'm experiencing. You know what I mean? I'm not able to turn it back on. I can't. You know what I mean? And that bothers me a lot because people will never understand what the hell it is that's actually going on. They'll hear about this and they'll think, yeah, he got over it. Well, I really didn't. You know what I mean? Like, days had gone by and I was still struggling just to try to get an intelligent thought worked out on that. You know? So, but anyways, it's just, that bothers me quite a bit. And so, but you know, that's been the most severe thing, of all of it, you know, and then they'll do things like catching me off guard. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you would never expect me to assault you at that moment. You know what I mean? Like, rather than just assault me straight up, which they can do, they'll turn into a waiting game. Oh my God. Or if it's not that, then it's something to do with Alex Jones. You know what I mean? Like, Alex Jones is thriving. Alex Jones, you know, that's interesting to Alex Jones, and he can't measure up to it, and so he's always just going to be on your phone. Like he feels entitled because you gave him attention. So actually, to him, that was like a permission statement. Like, you know what I mean? You gave him so much attention, he thinks that he's entitled just to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't actually understand that. You know what I mean? He doesn't understand that there's boundaries there. You know what I mean? That you weren't just saying, hey, come just hack my fucking phone. You know? Like, just whatever. Just, it's important. Oh, it's crazy and important. Just be there. You know what I mean? Like, he feels entitled to that thing. He thinks he's arrived. He thinks he's measured up. Like, he sees himself like way up here when he's actually a fraud. You know what I mean? Like, clearly a fraud. You know what I mean? And that was another thing. You know, I called into his show because he kept going, Saudi Arabia did 9/11. They just now made me feel this bullshit with Alex Jones. Now I got to change the whole fucking subject because it was getting too exciting and Alex Jones wasn't going to be able to handle it. This is what they made me feel. The subject was getting too deep. I wasn't going to just be able to say it. So now none of us get to hear it because Alex Jones got too excited. This is what fucks me up, dude. It's like, anyway, it's just such a nuisance situation, man. Really, you know. But but what I was gonna say is just what bothers me so much about it is that the importance of it to them is that I basically pull my hair out and go, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, it's because, see, that's how the war on drugs works. When your rights are violated and you cannot call the police, you have no recourse, then that's when violence emerges. A lot of times, these people will kill each other over relatively small amounts of property dispute, you know, like a transaction that the government didn't mediate. God damn, Alex Jones bullshit in here. Like, you're just feeling like, oh man, you didn't say that right. I made it in life. This is all the bullshit we're all gonna have to. You're gonna have to hear this every fucking video from now on, because this is how because he's on my device. I know he is. I mean, Alex Jones is a CIA asset. And I'll get into that after this, but you can look up CIA Alex Jones Stratford, and it should pop up. But anyways, I'll just power through it. I feel like I'm being raped by Alex Jones right now, but I'll just get through it. It's not going to come across correctly, but either way. But basically what I'm saying is just that it bothers me, and they're doing this now as I bring this up because they don't really want me going into this, because it's so ridiculous. It makes them look bad. You know what I mean? Because they intend to be God in your life, but they can't be God in everybody's life. You know what I mean? Some people are going to look at this and see bullshit. That's sick. And they're not really liking that. But the point of the story is just to say that, you know, like, it's just say like, you know, just the way they go about it is so offensive. It's, you know, it's more important to them to wait all day long for the moment in time that says, well, you would never expect me to do that, just to have me in such a state of bewilderment, to be like, just to me, it's just as bewildering just to know that, because I've dealt with the government and I understand, you know, when somebody's using, like, how a wait and see tactic works is basically when you can't find a way to render the type of damage that you're looking for, then you wait. You know what I mean? Or when you can't dominate a stronger enemy, then you wait for them to fuck up rather than try to just go and assault them. So I understand how that works completely. And what bothers me about it the most is knowing that they utilize these tactics, and it's just the fact that it's preferential to them. You know what I mean? That it's almost like an insult. You know what I mean? It's like, I wanted you to know that I preferred it, so that, you know what I mean, that you were just totally beside yourself, like, just what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like really? Like, this, it had to come to that? I'm trying to fucking figure these fucking people's problems out, and the best you can fucking do is try to figure out when I'm just going to pull my fucking hair out? You know, can you see how that would really piss somebody off? You know what I mean? It's just, god damn, dude. It's just, I can't, there's no end to how I feel about that. You know what I mean? And it'll fuck up my whole day. It might even fuck up the next day or the next day. You know what I mean? I'll stay upset about it for a long time. And it doesn't bother them. You know what I mean? It's just, if I throw a fit about it, they'll assault me right then. You know what I mean? Because then it's just unexpected. It's just hard to believe that they would do it. So, but either way, I don't even want to talk about it anymore because I feel like Alex Jones bullshit is in here, and it's just, they're not just gonna let me do it. So, but either way, the point of the story is just, you know, it's just actually Alex Jones has ruined my life. You know what I mean? And that's just another thing that frustrates me. Like, it's ruining my life. You know what I mean? Like, just right now, probably the rest of my day will be ruined because of the way that I'm feeling right now about just not even being able to get through this message because of Alex Jones. You know what I mean? And the way Alex Jones feels, and I have to feel Alex Jones the way he feels. You know, it's just, dude, it's like, let me get just, oh my God, dude, I'm just, holy shit, you know? But that is how they do it. I mean, that's what the repeated statements chapter means. It's you know, that's the conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? That's the conspiracy theorist who told you that you weren't supposed to eat pizza. And so we're assaulting the British royal family by making them watch what we're doing to Tanner over sex trafficking. But it's okay to feel like that. It's okay because, he did tell you that conspiracy theories were wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that makes it palatable. It's like, yeah, he told you conspiracy theories were bad. That's the conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? That's the one who told you eating pizza was bad for you. You know what I mean? And that's going to make everybody like it. You know what I mean? It's just disgusting. It's really disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, these people don't need any help being worthless when it comes to shit like that. You know what I mean? They already sit there and watch Fox News and CNN and bullshit all day long and soak up everything like a fucking sponge and regurgitate it word for word all fucking day. You know what I mean? They don't even have a sovereign thought in their fucking brain. You know what I mean? Not even one. Okay? So that really fucking bothers me a lot. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I get it. Like, if you like Donald Trump, some of what he's doing, it's okay to like some of what he's doing. You know what I mean? I like some of what he's doing. You know? But I won't just go out and say I love everything he's doing. You know what I mean? Like you motherfuckers, you know? And that's okay. I mean, Donald Trump isn't the worst, but, it's just, that mentality is just, it goes on forever. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or George W. Bush. You know what I mean? If you're a Republican, then everything he does is great. You know what I mean? It's just that type of dumbass mentality. You know what I mean? To say that, oh, well, that's the one who said conspiracy theories were bad. Because, see, those people offer you something to fear and you feel safe when you fear them. And I don't offer you anything to fear. So you don't feel safe, fearing me or whatever. But, either way, I'm done. I can't even get through this message. This isn't going well. I just feel like Alex Jones ruined this whole fucking video. But anyway, I think I probably made my point. I was going to go into a little bit on Alex Jones. There is, you can look that up. Alex Jones, CIA, Stratford. So him being on my device, that probably is going on. Actually, I've caught him repeatedly on my devices. And then it's, he is a Fabian communist. That's why he repeatedly says socialism works if you do it right. He was saying that all the time. Socialism works if you do it right. How do you do socialism right? You see what I mean? You can't. But he'll say that because, see, that's how they operate. And even today, sometimes I'll watch Alex Jones and I see when they bring up some of these little socialist agendas, you can see his eyes kind of light up. Like, he won't say it, but it's in his mind. You know what I mean? It's in his heart. He loves that. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why he's like jumping on the Joe Rogan bandwagon saying AI is going to take our jobs and all this. He's, oh, that's just the first phase. Because that's the argument for socialism. You know what I mean? Is to say that AI is going to take your job. No, AI is going to take somebody's job who's then going to go do something else, and all the fucking money that you didn't have to pay that person is going to pay them to do the thing that they want to be doing, which probably isn't sitting around researching shit and all that, which they can do at their leisure. You know what I mean? On something that they want to look into. But either way, the main point is just that, people don't even think about that, and it's hard to think about it, but these people, it doesn't take anything at all for them to just jump on the bandwagon and say, I want socialism. They're looking for ways to support that argument all day, every fucking day. Okay, and so they think they found one with that. I'm dismantling that as best as I can. But, what I'm saying is, it's just, somebody like that, and he was all day, every day saying, what was he saying? Saudi Arabia did 9/11. Saudi Arabia did 9/11 all day, every day. That was the centerpiece of his message. Saudi Arabia did 9/11. That's all he said. If there was anything that he repeated, it was Saudi Arabia did 9/11, and he repeated it so much that it overshadowed everything else that he had to say. Everything. It was Saudi Arabia did 9/11. That's what he had to say. You know what I mean? Might as well call it the Saudi Arabia did 9/11 show. You know what I mean? Fuck it. That would have been a perfect fucking title for his fucking show. the Saudi Arabia did 9/11 show. And so I called into his show, and they put me at the end of the lineup, behind all the other call-ins. But not only that, they then let their guests come on and let their guests speak, and then made me wait until the guests had got done speaking, and then let me speak within the last 3 minutes of the show, because he wasn't interested in being called out on that. You see what I mean? Because the nature of that situation was what I brought up was, I don't believe that Saudi Arabia fed the script to the BBC. That's the real tell of it all, is what happened with the BBC. I said, I don't believe that Saudi Arabia fed the script to the BBC and said, well, go ahead and read out loud that, Building 7 has collapsed behind, you, when it hadn't even collapsed yet. This is the first building to collapse due to fire in the history of the world. And they had called it before it even happened. Then, before it actually collapsed, their feed went out. And you could just tell somebody had done something. So what I'm saying is, it's just, I told him, I said, I don't think that Saudi Arabia had anything to do with that. And I said, I find it highly suspicious that somebody on the radio pointing our military at the biggest oil reserve in the world, and saying that this is how you know that they did it, that they fed the script to the BBC, that, you know what I'm saying, like they didn't do that, you know what I mean? So then what's the real argument here? You know what I mean? It's clearly not Saudi Arabia did 9/11, okay? And it's clearly Saudi Arabia has oil, you know what I mean? And didn't do 9/11. It didn't probably have anything to do with 9/11. That's a dirt poor country. They don't really probably have a hell of a lot to do with our government. I would be much more likely to believe the British would have had something to do with that, with our government, and they don't want to be invaded like all the other Middle Eastern countries. They would have known that's probably a part of the agenda, and they probably wouldn't have gotten on board with that. That's disgusting. And so, but that's just the way that, that's the reason why he didn't want me talking about it, because he's a fraud. That's why he wanted to jump on that bandwagon and be on it so much. You know what I mean? That's why he quit being like a left-wing shill and he started more like saying Ted Cruz is good, But that's neither here nor there. I already know he's a fraud, so I can read through all that stuff. I've exposed it in my book. I don't really need to rehash all that stuff. But it's just, it's just, they're making me feel this shit all the time. Like, Alex Jones ought to be the only fucking thing I'm worried about. Or the only, and this is really what's going on. They intend to make Alex Jones piss his pants in front of everybody over what the hell they intend to do to him, and then fuck him over at the height of his own desperation. And that's what they're doing with a lot of things. They're constantly asking me, how arrogant are those people? And one of the things they like to say is, if they suspect anything at all, then we won't be able to do what we came to do. See what they're doing? They're taunting them. They're basically saying to the public, look at us. Look what we're about to do. We're going to taunt these people, and then when they're pissing their pants in fear, then we're going to take them. Whatever they're going to do to them, possibly kill them or put them in prison. I have no idea. But it's a similar situation in Egypt where they come in and basically say, this is what we're about to do, and then that's what we're going to do, and then so you can sit there and be afraid of it right up until it happens, and then you can sit there and suffer through it, and that's what your options are. So literally, you just don't have any options. You're actually just going to suffer, and that's it. And that's just. To me, I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is probably some kind of divine retribution thing with me to get you to like the new Constitution. But yeah, it is. This decentralization provision is for sure the most important provision in all of it. So, and it's also pretty hard to understand. And the average person wants to have their say in everything. You know, they want it to be like Burger King. You know, drive to the drive-through menu and you know, have it your way. You know what I mean? And so what I have to say to that is just the system that I came up with is not designed to give you what you want, unless what you want is for the government to stay out of your business, unless what you want is not to pay for somebody else's health care, unless what you want is not to, you know, pay for somebody to sit on their butt and soak up welfare money. Unless what you want is, you know, not to go to prison for, you know, drugs or something, you know. And that, a lot of people just, they want those things, you know what I mean? They want to pay for somebody else's health care. They want to pay out the nose taxes and property taxes and all this different stuff. And then they want to go to prison if, you know, they have a hard day and they end up using drugs. They want somebody to lock them up. And what I'm saying is that I'm not allowing that. So if that's what you want, then actually you aren't going to get that, you know? And the decentralization provision really cements that, you know what I mean? It really, it's that's just the way it's going to be, you know? It's probably the most difficult thing to understand, and for some people, and it really does. I mean, you're going to go and vote for the mayor and the city council, and then you'll vote for the governors of the region, the governor of the state, and the president, but you won't be voting for anybody else. And those people, the governors and the president, they aren't writing the laws. So you're not having that much control in what's going on. And that, it needs to be like that. Because, there's a lot of reasons for why it needs to be like that. But either way, the reason that they're doing what they're doing to me, they're getting after me really bad. It's because of that. And I was to the point with it where I was like, look, I'm not even going to do anything if you're just going to keep assaulting me, because it was so fucking vicious. But then I realized if I don't do it, I feel like I'm repeating something to somebody because I've done this video twice. Somebody's listening to me. But anyways, but if I don't, you know, either way, it just doesn't even fucking matter. But yeah, it's, I don't even remember what I was going to say. I guess it isn't that important. They were assaulting me so bad that I was just throwing up my hands, and I was basically saying, I'm not going to do anything that you want me to do. And I think it was designed like that to make me get to that point. Kind of, I do believe that, because the end result was just that it took longer for me to actually create the provision. They had more time to assault me the whole fucking time, because the provision is so complex. The provision is so goddamn important. And it's not the most palatable provision in the world. People aren't exactly going to like that. In fact, it started off with, you have a house at the regional level, and then they had me remove it, which means that people don't want to hear about, you know, how we aren't going to be able to even vote for basically anybody within the system other than the person at the very bottom, and then the governors, which have the ability to steer things, but they don't have the ability to draft the legislation or anything. So, you know, one night I told him, you know, look, I'm done with your shit. I'm not doing anything. I'm quit. And they made me see like a baby, like it was like a little kid sitting at the end of the table, and he goes, wah! And they're like, and I was looking at this thing, and I was going like, that actually worked. You know what I mean? Like they portray themselves as a baby who can't like function without your help, and like, okay, fine. They do some weird stuff. The other day, I was talking to them about, you know, what they are, what kind of beings they are, and all this kind of stuff. And they made me see like space fluids, like illuminated space fluids, like dripping down from the ceiling into the room. They've done some really crazy stuff. They don't do as much crazy stuff. A lot of that stuff they were doing it seems like they were just doing it at the tail end of me believing still that they were aliens. And then once I believed that they were possibly even some kind of spiritual, I don't like using the word God, but possibly God, then it became, the whole approach changed. And actually recently I don't really hear from them that much, unless they're just doing something to fuck with me. But anyways, yeah, but you know, the point of what I was trying to say is just that, I was under the impression that this wasn't going to end, and so I just needed to go ahead and do the provision so I can go ahead and try to get them to leave me alone. But they're still assaulting me even afterwards, which and it's just, I know the severity of it. It's hard to measure the severity of it, but I feel like the severity of it must be worse because I'm just staying upset for longer periods of time. Like I was upset all day yesterday, and I woke up today pissed off still about yesterday, to the point of just raging mad. And then they fucking assaulted me in the middle of that shit. You know what I mean? It's just like, holy shit, this shit with Sam Hyde. Like, oh yeah, that creep Sam Hyde who, you got to worry about, just some jealousy person who probably stalks you, and like we're gonna measure you up to him, and and just all this shit, like making me feel it. It's the way they make me feel it involuntarily that would blow your fucking mind. I'm talking straight up, totally involuntary, to the point where I'm just sitting there like, that wasn't me at all. You know what I mean? Like, that didn't have anything to do with me, and almost depicting it in front of me, like making me perceive it like with different things in the room, just like you're sitting here and it's up there, and you're actually sitting right there, and here you are all the way on the other side of the room, yet you still feel this, like, as if it came from you, but it didn't. You know what I mean? And just the extreme of like, we're gonna own your mind with Sam Hyde bullshit. You know what I mean? It's just, they're making me hate him, which already I'm not a huge fan of his, but I guess I don't hate him like that. I know that he's got jealousy issues, and I think he did hack my phone. But even with that being said, it's just, I just don't care that much to hate people anymore. It's like, I mean, I don't know, but they're just making that happen. So, and I think that's going to be the next thing. That's going to be the next exciting thing for me in life, is going to be talking every day about how, they made me hate Sam Hyde again. They're making me hate Sam Hyde again. They're making me feel hatred towards Sam Hyde again. They're raping my mind with Sam Hyde shit. You know what I mean? And that'll be the next fucking thing that I have to go through, because then they'll get something out of that. So then my life is basically disposable. I hope you understand that.